Hey, what's up, YouTube? Well, I hope this video isn't as long as the last one I made, which I had to split in half because for some reason it just wouldn't upload a video that long. So I had to split it and make it a part 1 and part 2. Well, today I hope to be much quicker with making my video. And what I'd like to talk about today is something that I was motivated to talk about because it just really gets on my nerves what people like to say about one of my favorite places to eat. I want to title this video, I Love Chick-Fil-A. Okay, I just got through eating there in the restaurant for the first time in well over a year. You know, I never thought that would happen while I was still 37, basically my 38th year of life, so to speak. I never thought I would have an opportunity to eat inside a Chick-fil-A at age 37 because I was 36 when this whole COVID thing began. And it's been going on for well over a year. It's been nothing but a drive-through. Okay, but I was motivated to eat there because the same kinds of people that defend this Rugrats show and their decision to make Betty DeVille an LGBT icon, the same people who are defensive about that and totally support it are the kinds of people who hate Donald Trump and Chick-fil-A, okay? Now that is one of my favorite places to eat. I've been getting their food via drive-through, as I've stated, well over a year, like more like 15 months. Wow. So, between the age of 36 and 9 months, and now I'm 37 and 11 months, almost 38, in, I want to say, 12 days. Oh my gosh, I got less than 2 weeks to prepare. Okay, so I love Chick-fil-A. It's one of my favorite places to eat ever since I had my first meal there. But the fact that they're conservative only makes me love them that much more. Okay, the fact that now I'm not exactly sure I even remember, what happened to cause the LGBT people to boycott them, and I don't really care. I don't really care about the exact details. Okay, it was just something from many years ago, that had the gay community, so to speak, or the disgusting community all up in arms for some reason, and they boycotted Chick-fil-A. Why, I don't remember. Why, I don't really care. Okay, so I love Chick-fil-A, and I just got through eating there for the first time in the building as opposed to the drive-through, because it's been a drive-through and nothing more for well over a year. So I love Chick-fil-A, and I hate the people that speak out against it. And to all those who say I shouldn't eat there, I have one message for you. It begins with an F and ends with a U, okay? Blank you, okay? That's what I have to say to anyone who hates Chick-fil-A. They can go ahead and thumbs down my video if they want. I don't really care, but I'm going to continue to eat at Chick-fil-A and other places that are conservative because you know what? Regardless of my sexuality or how I may choose to identify, I am conservative, and I believe that the conservative way is the right way, okay? Especially when it comes to raising children. It's one thing to be gay, but to cram that nonsense down our children's throat is another. I don't approve of that. And I'm still very upset about the whole, Betty DeVille thing, and basically, I'm just not happy about that. And, I have no interest in Blue's Clues. But the same people who are mad about the Rugrats thing with Betty DeVille are also mad about this thing on Blue's Clues where they animated a literal drag queen in a rainbow dress. So it's basically a guy singing as this female character in a rainbow dress. And I think that's absolutely abhorrent and appalling, that they would put that on a show for kids, kids under age 5. It's disgusting. Okay, and associating homosexuality with families and love and rainbows and beautiful things is disgusting because it's anything but that, okay? And, I've also discovered the truth, and it almost makes me cry, which I don't want to cry on YouTube. But, the truth of the matter, I think what has really happened with me and a lot of other young people like me is not so much that I'm gay, because I really do not believe that I am gay per se. It's not so much that I'm gay, but it's something called urbanization, okay? And what happens is when you cram people into a city, which is what happened with me. I am a country girl deep down inside. That's where my roots are. That's where my ancestors lived, was in a rural area. Okay? But my generation, or my sister and I, were basically forced to live in sort of a metropolitan suburb area. And right now, I'm close to a big city, living in an apartment that's a literal POS. Okay? And so basically, what happens during urbanization, people are forced to live in a city and depend on its resources. And what happens is, over time, they can actually lose the will to reproduce, which is, I believe, what happened with me. I'm not gay. I just don't have the will to reproduce. That's why I prefer the term asexual. With me, it's an aversion to men, not an attraction to women, and that cannot be stated enough. And that's where, this term metro, for a guy that's sort of effeminate, that's where it comes from. Because when you live in the city, the roles of men and women are more alike. And, it's just a very depressing environment that doesn't really make you want children. Children aren't seen as an asset or a blessing. They're seen as a liability and a nuisance. It's like, how much can you really want children when above your head you hear the stomping of a child's feet running these videos, screaming all night, and it's annoying, okay? How much can you really want a child when you're subjected to that? And why would you, when you're taught your whole life that you're going to have to grow up and work in an office like a man for 8 hours a day, why would you want to have a bunch of kids, when you're going to have to work 8 hours a day and not be around them and put them in daycare and then come home at the end of the day to a bunch of sick kids that have been in daycare all day, becoming attached to someone other than yourself, and it's just not a scenario that makes you want to have kids. And so as a defense mechanism against overpopulation, you can actually lose your heterosexual instincts. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you're exposed to the pheromones of a lot of members of the opposite sex. Like I graduated with over 700 people. You can actually become desensitized or even develop an aversion to the opposite sex. Like when you're exposed to too many men as a woman or too many women as a man, you can actually become not so much gay, so to speak, but you can develop an aversion to the opposite sex as opposed to an attraction. And I believe that that is what happened to me. And plus, the more education you get, the more a woman doesn't want to have children, because she learns just how much more work it is for a woman, and how much more negatively it impacts the life of a woman as opposed to a man. Okay? And it's like, why would you want to work 8 hours a day, to help provide for these children, and, come home and do all the housework, and they would get sick, a lot more than, say, if you were out in the country homeschooling, and having a bunch of other kids to help you. So, it's like when you look back on your own childhood, your own kindergarten year, which my mom would try to deny this, in which we had at least a dozen colds, which thankfully I don't get that many now, praise God. And you just imagine having a child like that of your own. It's just not a very good prospect. And, when you can't provide a better tomorrow for your kids than you had, you just don't want to reproduce. And it's like, you live in a place like this where the sky is perpetually purple. You know, you don't have thousands of stars in a pitch black sky that you would like to share with your children in the future. You just see maybe a few planets, maybe the moon if you're lucky enough that it isn't the new moon and it isn't too cloudy, which we're coming up on the new moon, therefore we don't see it. So, you know, you don't really have much that you want to share with your children. You know, when the dog park is actually nicer than the children's play area, it's like, why would you want to have kids? So I think that's what's really going on with me. I don't really think I'm gay or any of those things. And I love Chick-fil-A.